Hello, everyone. Welcome. Perfect. So I think we are live and running. Welcome. Thank you guys so much for taking the time out of your day on this beautiful Friday, TGIF, and joining us to discuss Black women and infertility. Welcome. It is National Infertility Week, and we wanted to recognize and discuss how the issue impacts Black women. All too often, myths and misinformation appear in media stories, influence lawmakers and companies to enforce policies that create barriers for people who need help building their family. And still, people feel isolated, particularly since infertility is not a. And as we prepare for our conversation today, I would like provide some baseline information about infertility. The National Institute of Health defines, defines infertility as the inability for women between the ages of 15 to 44 to get pregnant after at least 1 year of actively trying to conceive, and for men, the inability to impregnate women. The NIH also states that women who become pregnant but who cannot carry a pregnancy to term may also be considered infertile. The cause can rest with a woman or a man. Infertility has been recognized by the medical community as a disease, and it has no single cause because for pregnancy is a chain of events. Although it's not talked about much, infertility is common to the CDC in the United States among heterosexual women aged 15 to 49 years old with no prior births. About 1 in 5 women, which is about 19%, are unable to get pregnant after at least 1 year of actively trying. Also, about 1 in 4 women, which is about 26% of women, have difficulty getting pregnant or carrying pregnancy to term. So just think to struggle with achieving this isn't as often as these are. And then thinking about Black, according to the CDC, the incidence of infertility is higher in Black women than white women and is steadily increasing. The fact seems somewhat taboo at this point, and as systematic and structural racism have painted the picture of Black women can easily reproduce. This dates back to slavery in America. The Black women was one of the most valuable people in the slave trade because their ability to bear children, specifically for continuous labor. And one of our goals is to refrain from the narrative and give Black women voices and the stage to provide the true picture of how these issues impact us as a whole. And then on the issues of, so today we are honored to have Miss Tabitha Hinton and Miss Lauren Terry here to speak about their experiences. I am going to read a little bit of their bio started. I'm going to start with Tabitha. So, a part of the new rising Black entrepreneurs, Tabitha Hinton is one of the latest and leading hairstylists in Jackson, Mississippi. She attended the Jackson State University and she received her associate's degree from Virginia College in salon management. And now she owns and operates her own business, Tweak Styles, which she's been running with the Tab, which is what she go by, a name she acquired over the years, is determined to make Tweak Styles a household name, not only in Mississippi, but nationwide. So thank you, Miss Tabitha, for joining us. We truly appreciate it. Next, we have Mrs. Lauren Terry. Lauren Terry is a registered nurse currently residing in Louisiana. She graduated cum laude from the Jackson State University with a bachelor's in biology. She received her bachelor's in nursing from the of Mississippi. Also received her master's in nursing and healthcare administration from UNC. Lauren currently serves as a regional nurse manager for Louisiana Bureau of Family Health in Louisiana. And fun fact, Lauren has a newborn and Tabitha has an infant. So we are really honored to have them speak with us today. So as we get started and move into our discussion, I am going to start off with a few questions for you guys. I know you both have vastly different different experiences and journeys. So we would like to give you guys the opportunity to one, introduce yourself and share a little bit about your journey. So whoever wants to take the floor, Tab, Lauren, go ahead.
Okay, I go first. I was born with a condition, and they told my mom that I wouldn't be able to have children. And so that's when I met my husband. That's when we started to look into, the IVF, the different ways that I could possibly get pregnant. And yeah, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yeah, you can hear me.
Yeah.
Wow, yes,
Yeah,
I can hear you
yeah.
too, Tab. And I know
Oh,
probably just starting from a young girl. I'm sure that affected you in ways
right, right,
that was unimaginable.
right. Yeah. So yeah, Lauren.
Okay. So my
Hey, Lauren.
story is a little different. So I had no issues as far as I knew, as far as conceiving, until I actually started to try. Prior to that, um, I went to the doctor and she mentioned, this is probably I was like 24, and the doctor I had at the time, the OB, she mentioned that I had fibroids, but she's like, "Oh, they're small, don't worry about it, you'll be fine." And it wasn't until about 2 or 3 years later when I started with the new OB, she felt the fibroids and she was like, "Are you trying to have children at some point?" I was like, "Well, not right now, but eventually." She was like, "Well, I think you might have some trouble because where your fibroids are." And that kind of started the whole issue of my infertility, because the fibroids, which I got removed, later led to scar tissue, which ended up blocking my tubes. And so that kind of, but we didn't find all of that out until 3 years after we started the whole infertility journey. So that's kind of the basis of what stemmed, or what was the root of my infertility.
Tab, did you have something to
Yeah,
add? I wasn't sure. I didn't want to.
I can share a little more. Okay, I was born without an anus. And born with being born that way, they didn't think I would make it through. Period. So when they went in to reconstruct everything, I had the colostomy bag, I had the whole everything. So I dealt with that all the way up until I guess when I became an adult and I learned how to, kind of manage it on my own. But they told my mom that I pretty much, wouldn't be able to have kids, that I wouldn't be normal, pretty much. And, it's kind of hard to talk about, so I guess that's why I didn't go really into detail about it. But I guess people need to hear it. So here I with that being said, I met my husband and I told him right off the bat that I could not have kids. It was one of those things that you put in the back of your mind, like, okay, they said I can't have kids, then you learn to be okay with it. Even
Right.
though it's those things where um, you know, as a woman, you want to have a child. Everybody wants to have a child if you're a woman. It's kind of your womanhood to have a child. And to feel like you can't have a kid, or somebody tell you can't have a kid, it makes you feel less than a woman.
Right.
And just dealing with that, you get to a point where you just accept it. And so when I met my husband, I told him that I couldn't have kids, and his whole thing was, did they tell you that? I'm like, yeah. He never believed me. He or my OB. They just never really gave in to that whole thing. And so they pretty well, not push, but had me go to the IVF clinic. And when I got tested and they checked everything, pretty much when they reconstructed my anus, I had scar tissue on my tubes.
Mm.
So now prior to that, I actually had two miscarriages. Both of them were tubular pregnancies. Tubular, yeah, pregnancies. So they took that tube out, so I had one tube left. So that one tube was called toxic tube, a toxic tube. That's what the doctor called it. But he said other than that, my lining and eggs and everything else was fine. And honestly, I went to the appointment just to kind of, I guess, get that out the way. Like, okay, I know it's not going to happen, so it's like, let me just go so they can leave me alone about it. But through the grace of God, it was just one of those things where it was like, oh, wait, what? And it turned my whole life around. It really did. Just to even have kind of hope that it could possibly happen. Okay, so yeah.
No, when you said that, as far as like when we look at womanhood and a part of womanhood, we feel like just to be able to be a mother, and it kind of made me think about what Asia said about how the thought process is that Black women can bear children very easily, and I think historically that was true. I mean, my maternal grandmother had 8 children. And I'm sure a lot of our grandmothers had multiple kids. I mean, a lot of us have 10 or whatever uncles and aunts. Like our ancestors had multiple children. And so it's hard when you're just trying to have one. and you're just trying to figure out what's going on, and just like, different from your story, like my whole, just like everything was normal. Like I had normal periods. Nobody ever told me that I would ever have any issues until I got married and I was not getting pregnant. I could not understand why I have a 28-day cycle routinely, and I know I'm ovulating, and something is not right. But it just kind of, we'll go into later, just how when you don't know, you lose a lot of time, and I think a lot of Black women, there's that perception that, oh, and especially in Black families, oh, you'll be fine, you'll get pregnant eventually, you just have to wait on the right time. Well, in reality, like many of us, there are different issues that prevent us from conceiving, and when we don't seek that medical attention, it delays things.
Right.
It definitely does. And thank you guys so much for sharing your personal stories. We really appreciate it. This is why we have this platform. People need to hear your stories. Black women need to know that they are not alone. And moving on to our next question, since we kind of we're just going with the flow, how did you navigate the system as a Black woman? This is an area where there's not so much support for Black women. So what did you guys do to navigate the system?
Well, for me, I think what helped me is that not only am I a nurse, but I worked in OB. So I worked, as far as kind of knowing what to expect, as far as how to get pregnant and all of that. So I had a lot of knowledge about it. So I was very proactive about, okay, something is going on. But I will tell you that initially when I talked to my OB, it was oh, you're fine. Like you're 29, like you're fine. And I had to push. I was like, no, like something is not right at all. And I had to hey, I know this is how I'm supposed to get pregnant. And I know this is not what's going on. And I think, like I mentioned before, a lot of Black women are not knowledgeable about that. And we waste a lot of time, just waiting, and each month, just waiting, instead of pressing our doctors. And that's what I had to do. I had to press my OB to refer me to a fertility clinic. I was like, you can't do what I need you to do here. This is beyond your scope, no offense. But I need to be referred to a fertility doctor because something else is going on, and it's far greater than what you can test me to see if I'm ovulating. It's something else. I need to be evaluated further. So I think because I had some of that knowledge, I had to press, but unfortunately, a lot of Black women don't know until it's later, and a year, 2 years pass before they even get into a fertility clinic. And then just getting in a fertility clinic is a battle in itself, especially post-COVID. People wait months to even see a fertility doctor. So that's a whole nother battle in itself.
Right. I guess to answer that, I guess the pressure wasn't on until I got married. The next question is, when are you gonna have children?
Right.
And people people say that not trying to be mean, but you know, you don't know people's issues, you know what I mean? And you ain't had that man no baby yet, you know, it's just you hear all kinds of stuff and it hurts, you know what I'm saying? It really hurts and you want to tell them like, if I could I would I would have done it a long time ago. But to add to what you were saying about the fertility clinic, I had no knowledge about any of that stuff. And so I had to kind of do my own research because, you know, being a brown woman, you're not expected to know anything anyway.
Right.
You know, be real about it, you're not. And it's a money making business just like anything else. And a lot of things I have had to look up, you know, myself because brown women that were probably going through it, they're not saying anything about it. They're not vocal about it. You know, it's very secretive. You know, I was in groups, you know, IVF groups, and it wasn't too many of us in there. And the ones that were, they were quiet. You know, honestly, one of my clients, well, my friend, she's the reason why, you know, I went through the whole process, and I'm thankful for her. And that's why I'm here today because I feel like, you know, not being secretive about it is, you know, it's not helping anybody. The more vocal we are, you know, it helps people. It really does. And I've met numerous of people who are going through different, you know, different issues, but the same, who, you know, now opening their eyes to, okay, well, I could possibly go through the, you know, and be okay. And yeah, you know, you hear about the whole expense and all that stuff, but I mean, it's doable. It really is doable. And being in the clinic, my doctor, he's a great doctor. However, you know, like I say, it's a money making business. And some things that I went through, I wish, you know, I had somebody tell me, you know, okay, well, maybe you should run this test first before you get this embryo transferred, or either you could just lose this embryo. You understand what I'm saying? Or um, before you start the process, you should work out. You know, you should be in the best shape of your life so that you can have good eggs, you know, when you actually go through the process. So little things like that, you know, trying to do my own research on things to better my experience. You know what I mean? Because they're not gonna, you don't really get a lot. You just don't.
Right. Right. I totally agree, especially
You
with the whole
you have
money.
to advocate for yourself. That's
Right,
true.
Lauren.
No, I was just saying I agree with the it's a money making business, which explains why insurance very seldom covers
Right.
because it physicians make a lot of money off infertility, a lot of money. And like you said, it was some things I wish, you know, I knew. Even for example, we went through what you call a IUI, which is a intrauterine insemination, which we later found out was a waste of time and money because my tubes were blocked anyway, so it wasn't going to work, you know. And so like, but it's a money making business. And so,
Wow.
you know, this was my first RE that was like, no, let's do IUI first. And I was like, but I think I need to get tested to see if my tubes are blocked. But he, you know, he pushed as far as like, well, no, let's do everything else is normal, which in turns later on, I had a new RE when I moved to Louisiana. But it was just a waste of time. And it was a way we wasted thousands of dollars doing IUI when it was never going to work in the first place because with an IUI, your tubes have to be open. And my tubes were closed. So it was just a waste of time, but it's a money making business, you know, and but that's another barrier for Black women, unfortunately.
Right. I have 4 embryos. I ended up with 4 embryos. We transferred 2 the first time.
Mhm.
Had I known about the test that you can get done that takes a piece of your uterus to see exactly when they should implant the embryo in, the exact amount of medicine, the exact time, you know, now I'm not one to live in the past because I do believe that everything happens for a reason. I do. But you get what I'm saying. Is I feel like had I known about that test, you know, possibly those embryos could have made it because we transplanted 2 and lost to both of them the first time. And then we did then my doctor, you know, said we should do it.
Wow.
Yeah, that the same thing happened to me. We had our first transfer. Now everything was textbook. Like my lining was perfect. Like I mean, everything was textbook. Like my and she was good. My RE, this is the one in Louisiana, in New Orleans. She was like really good, and she was like, yeah, like this is going to work. And when it did in the first transfer, like she was like, I'm so sorry. But I asked her about the test, and initially she was like, no, I don't think we need the test. And then the first transfer didn't work. And now I'm like, should have we done the test? Because like I said, that's an embryo that I lost, and it's like you said, of course, timing and everything happens at the time it's supposed to, of course. But like you said, that's just one of those things. It's a money making business.
And going through any loss, be it transfer or through just I guess a traditional miscarriage, it's hard.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard.
I would definitely agree, because even though the transfer, that first transfer didn't work, like I felt like I was. Yeah, like because when you do IVF, they give you a picture of your embryo. For people who don't know, before they transfer, they give you, and it's literally a black and white picture. There's like a ball of cells, right? But when you are going through IVF, that means a lot to you. Like that is like a big thing. And so when the transfer didn't work, I just sobbed and stared at that picture, because this was my baby that was supposed to be a baby, but it didn't happen. And in my mind, I was like, why am I upset about this? Like this, like I was trying to convince myself that, okay, this was not a real baby, but to me, it was. It was, and I had to give myself grace for that, to say it was okay for me to be sad about it. It was okay for me to cry about this, even though to some this was not a baby that was in my belly. But for me, that was a real thing,
Right. And it takes a lot to even get to the point to have embryos.
Yes. Yes.
It's a lot. You go through the process of getting the eggs extracted, and you have to go through that 5 day, was it 5 day
for it to grow? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. For the embryos for the egg, it's an egg at this point,
right,
to grow its cells.
Right.
You get a phone call every day updating you on how many eggs you have.
Right.
like it's and there's nerve wracking within itself. Like it's a lot. It really is a lot.
Yes.
Mention the injections into the stomach twice a day,
yes.
to the point to get the eggs extracted. So this is stuff that we don't talk about.
Mm-hmm.
Not talk about, and it's a lot.
It is. It is. It is.
And it's just one of those things, like
and this is why we're having this. You guys have talked about how go ahead, Tab. I'm sorry I cut you off.
No, I was listening to you. No, you're fine.
Oh, okay. So you guys have definitely talked about how expensive the treatments can be, and in Mississippi, of course, we have some of the major issues across just getting access to basic health care, and this is one of the largest barriers that families face who suffer trying to conceive and not being able to. Do you have resources to help families that are going through this journey?
Well, you go, Tab.
Go ahead first. You go ahead first.
So I would tell you, when you have your consultation with IVF and they give you out the printout of all the costs, and it is overwhelming. I will be honest with you, because unlike other races, many of us don't have like a nest egg of $30,000, right, so that we can just pull from. Like, many of us don't have relatives that we can borrow $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 from. So that's the first thing. Now I will say there are loans, right. But another barrier is to get the loan with a good percentage or whatnot, interest rate. You want to have good credit. which a lot of, unfortunately, Black and brown people do not for various reasons, which causes another barrier. There are different like income-based programs that they have, but it's hard to get them. My husband and I did not get them. There are few scholarships if you like scan the internet, but they're like open from maybe different parts of the year. Let's say somebody is giving out a $2,000, grant, but the application period is from October to December. Well, it's April and I'm trying to have a transfer, so I don't have time to wait until October. So it is difficult. I am not going to lie to you. Between us doing a loan and dipping into our savings thank God we had, but a lot of people don't have it,
Right.
But just think about it. Somebody gives you an expense sheet and it totals up to over $25,000. How do you figure out to pay for it? Right. And insurance covers nothing of it. Nothing. It's hard. You have to be creative as far as trying to find extra income. I worked a PRN job at a hospital. This was aside from my regular full-time job. I had a PRN job that I was using to help pay for it. My husband dipped into his 401k. Like it was hard, but you have to realize that there are Black families that want to conceive that don't have a 401k to dip in. They don't have a career, let's say as a nurse, where I can go get a job, a PRN job, and make extra money to do that. They don't have, let's say, the credit to get a loan, to get approved for a loan. So the barriers are still there, and it's very unfortunate that if you're not in the right situation, it would be very difficult, very, very difficult to pay for it. They make it seem like, yeah, you just get a loan, but and then with us, prior to getting the loan, we had bought a house and bought 2 cars before we even knew that we were going to need IVF. So even with the loan we got, it wasn't even for the total amount that we needed to pay for IVF, because our income to debt ratio had went up when we bought a house and bought 2 cars before we knew we were going to need IVF. So that's just kind of one of the things that we encountered as far as barriers to pay for it. It's hard. It's not a lot of resources. I would be very honest about it.
Every single thing Lauren said, said. To add to that, I guess there are now, after we went through the process, I found that there are different jobs who actually offer assistance. I think Amazon. Who else we got? Starbucks.
Starbucks does.
Target. I think Target does too.
Oh, really?
But, I mean, there are stipulations to that too, to my understanding, and I found that out through a group. But even on top of that, if you know that you'll possibly, go through that saving, it's okay to put aside this much money, and you want to do it in a year or two. But of course, some people don't have all that time, and I get it. And because when you go to those appointments, they looking for their money right there. And
yes.
When had my eggs extracted, when they took the eggs out, I actually had another fibroid that grew back that they needed to cut out while they went in to get the eggs. So there was extra money that we had no clue about. So you have, I don't know, it's one, and everything is on a time schedule. Everything is on a schedule, and so if you don't have the money, they looking at you like, so I guess we're not.
Yep, exactly. Exactly. This is not where they can bill you later. Like before they take you to the back, they're gonna say, this is how much you owe. You're gonna have to slide that credit card, slide whatever, or they gonna, it's a business.
Yep. And all the medicine is paid for up front.
Yes.
You get a big box with syringes and medicine. You do. And you looking like, hold on, wait, all these syringes, what we supposed to do? And you just pay money for all these shots, and you got to take them. Somebody going to take them because you just paid off.
Yeah, and I'm not talking about like $500. We're talking $5,000 for medicine. Like, it's not where we're talking before you even lay on a table and they do anything to you. A box of medicine that you need to go through the whole process can go upwards to $5,000, like depending on what you need.
I'm sorry, but however, I feel discouraged by it though, because you know, my thing is it's a hard process, but it's worth it. That's my whole thing. And you know, being open with your family about it. Oh, you know what I mean? And that's the main thing. And you know, I feel like that's why I'm here, because you know we don't talk about it. My gym family, when I was working at the gym, they were so supportive. And you know, I'm sure if I had a did a GoFundMe or something, or they would have helped. You know what I mean? Would have helped, no doubt in my mind. Family, friends, they would have helped.
No, you are absolutely right. I think it's, like you said, very important to be open to your family. Because my husband and I, we had to have conversations with our family. Like, we need some help. we need some help. Like, we have like tried to do it on our own, like figuring out, you know, the money that we had. But the process in itself is emotional, and then when you throw on a financial hardship, it makes it even more trying. But like Tabitha said, it's worth it, and I will tell you that God provided in ways that we didn't even see coming. I don't want anybody to think that my husband and I have thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars, because we did not. We did not, and God came through in ways that we were not expecting. Was unbelievable, truly, as far as for us to be able to pay for this and still pay for the rest of our household bills, you know?
And even though the finance part is a big part of it, and it's like the most, oh my God, part of it, I feel like if you have the will and the want, God gonna provide the way. You know, I do believe that, because there were times when we were like, oh, okay, we got this going, because they're gonna give you a whole schedule of everything, and you know this is coming up, and it's like, okay, how are we supposed to do it? And it happened. It happened. You know, and just believing, just gotta believe it. Like it can happen.
Yes, absolutely.
Get emotional. It really can happen.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, thank you guys so much. I really appreciate this conversation that we're having. I'm glad you guys like a support system. So let's shift gears and talk about the importance of a great support of your spouses and other family and friends throughout the process.
As far as me, first, my husband was a very big support, because I like to stress that it's important for men to have support too in this, because a lot of times, you know, with the men and the husbands, it's like they feel like I want to help my wife, but there's really nothing I can do in this process. Like my husband and I joke all the time on what his part in this whole this whole process was. But it's very important to have a supportive partner in this whole process, because it's long, and it can be emotionally draining. But when you have the right partner with you, it's very doable. Like there are going to be, you know, times I was tired, like Tabitha mentioned, giving shots in my stomach. Like one time we were like in the very beginning, this is after I was pregnant, we were at a football game. I literally had my syringes in my purse and had to go to a bathroom and had to get him to come with me to like give me a shot. Like we're at a football game with thousands of people and I'm in a bathroom trying to give myself an injection. Like because it's so time sensitive. But it's important to have that supportive partner. And then aside from your partner, supportive friends and family. Like, and I think supportive is not necessarily just knowing everything that IVF consists of, but just sometimes I just need for you to sit on the phone and just listen to me talk about how I'm tired. And just listen, and just say, you know, hey, whatever you need, I'm here for you, even if it's just a listening ear. And it's very important. You don't need a multitude of people, if that's not your thing. But, if you have those few people that that you can turn to for emotional support, which I think is a big thing, having that emotional support, because the process, not just IVF, but just infertility by itself, is a long and draining process, and you need that support. And I am a praying person, and so to have somebody just to know that I can say, "Will you pray for me?" and know that like they're not just gonna say okay, but just know that this person that asked to pray for me, they really went in prayer for me. That means a lot. So I think to get through infertility, support from your spouse or your partner and close friends or family is very essential to getting through it.
Yeah. To add to that, my husband, he's been great through the whole thing. And he doesn't like needles, y'all. He hates needles. So I was able to do the ones in my stomach, no problem. But the hip ones, there are these thick, big needles. There's no way I could have done it myself. And my husband looking at me like, so who's gonna do it? Like, needless to say, he came through and he did it every single time. I mean, he got off work and went to the salon. I mean, I would stop between clients to go get that little shot. Well, it wasn't little, but go
Yeah,
get
it was.
that.
Oh.
My clients knew about it, and they was like, "I thought you were taking the shot." I took the shot, and you okay? I'm like, "Yeah." I mean, and then you get to where it's like, okay, all right.
Right.
I mean, you keep thinking in the back of your head, okay, it's for my baby. It's for my baby, and that's what kept me going. No matter how sore my butt was trying to get on that spin bike, y'all.
Oh my goodness.
And and I made it happen, and I'm thankful for it. I didn't tell my family. Well, my mom knew. I'm from the country, so my mom she knew about it, but she wasn't. I'm always doing crazy stuff, by the way. First of all, so her thing was, oh, okay, but then it was like, I'm pregnant. She was like, hold on, wait, what? And it's a thing. Like it was just big. It was a big thing. Let my family know about it, and they were very supportive of everything. Just everybody around was very supportive. They really, really were. Like, I don't think I've ever been as supported ever in my life, to be honest. It's a blessing. It really is a blessing. Yeah, that's all I can say about the support thing. The support was overwhelming. Involved about it. They just laughing at me.
I know.
I'm so glad you guys had that support. I don't know what life would be without support. I'm a person, I'm big on support. If you support me, then that's just an automatic, oh my goodness, I love you for life. Support is one of a major factor for me. So I can understand going through something like this, how support is needed. And as we mentioned in the opening, the system of racism that we exist in has washed out the voices and experiences of black women countless of times, and making society believe that issues of infertility does not impact black women. Can you talk about how you address this stigma internally with those around you?
Go ahead, Lauren.
Now I will say, between two fertility clinics, one was in Mississippi, and then when I moved to Louisiana, the one which helped me conceive was the one in New Orleans. I can tell you, over the span of two clinics and 3 years, because you got to add in COVID, which was a break and everything. I probably saw maybe two other black or brown couples, like literally. Maybe two. I don't even remember. I don't know if I saw one in Mississippi, and I might have saw two in Louisiana. Now, I will say, as far as encountering any type of racism with my fertility clinic, I did not with either one. And that could just because it's a business, but I did not. Each reproductive endocrinologist was very helpful. And like I said, the only reason I switched is because I moved, so I didn't have to encounter any of that. But I think to tell that I only saw maybe 2 other Black couples out of 3 years in 2 fertility clinics is very telling on where Black women are in their battle and the fight to overcome infertility. That is still, like Tabitha mentioned, very hush hush. It is still very something that we don't talk about. There's still the stigma that Black women are fertile, that we can have babies on top of babies on top of babies. When I will tell you, I know a lot of women my age that have irregular periods or have very heavy periods. There's something going on with their reproductive system. It's so crazy that we think, oh, it's normal to go through 5, 6, 7 large pads a day when you're on your period. That's not normal. Like you should not be bleeding like that when you having your period. But it's just it's things that we think is normal until we like really get ourselves checked out or whatnot. And it shows you some of those battles that we are in. And I just hope these conversations is changing those those ideas that no, you don't have to wait and wait and wait and wait to think it's going to happen naturally. No, it's okay to go see a doctor to say, hey, this is what I want to be ran, even if you're not when you're not trying to have a baby at that time, even if you want to do some preventative things, proactive things. But it's just, as far as racism, I did not encounter that while doing my fertility treatments, but there are little to no other Black people that were in these clinics, which goes with financials or with just awareness and just knowing that this is available to us, to be evaluated.
Yeah. And my thing is, don't feel embarrassed. Don't feel embarrassed by it.
Mm-hmm.
Don't feel embarrassed, because I know it's for a long time I did.
Mm-hmm.
Don't feel embarrassed by not being able to have a child. And I guess trying to see how to put it. Well, just don't feel embarrassed by it. And what Lauren said, yeah, I think I only seen like 1 or 2 Black couples my whole duration of my visits, the whole duration of my visits, maybe
Mm-hmm.
1 or 2. But I didn't experience any racism or anything, and I'm sure they wasn't gonna be racist because we're paying pretty good.
Right. Right.
And if they felt some type of way, it wasn't openly. So
Right.
Right, because in a way, it's a privilege to be able to have access to it. So,
Mm-hmm.
Eric, this question is for you. As a fitness instructor, health contributes to a better health outcome overall. Your knowledge and experience as a fitness instructor and how it helped you through your journey.
definitely, being in great shape, weight really good. All that helped out a lot, but nobody told me about that, and nobody said how you should wait and work out and eat right so you can have better quality eggs. Nobody mentioned that. So thankfully I worked out and my husband worked out, so we got pretty good great eggs. They grade the eggs too, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
They grade them like on an A to D scale. They grade them. So being a fitness instructor and having that routine workout, it definitely helped out with growing the embryos as well as during my actual pregnancy. I was on the bike until I think about 30 weeks. So I mean, and then even after, like I was back. I had the baby December 7th. I was back in the salon January 15th.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, so it helps out. Definitely helped out a lot.
I think Asia might be frozen.
I'm sorry, I was muted. Just learning from your stories. This is just really amazing. I did not know. And I'm 28, so it's a lot of young women and even older women who doesn't know the information as well. So yeah, working out. I didn't know me have healthier eggs. That's not something that's taught to us.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you so much for sharing,
Yep.
Lauren. I'm gonna direct this question towards you. And as a nurse, you have knowledge of not only aspects of, but also how to navigate the healthcare system. Discuss how being a nurse help you through this journey.
Yeah, so I touched on it earlier, just as far as um, knowing what my body should be doing and why it is not doing it. And pushing my healthcare providers to perform certain tests and all of that. But it also carried on to when I was pregnant, which can go into Black maternal health. Of course, some things that plague Black pregnancies are things like preeclampsia, diabetes, and stuff like that. And so for me as a nurse, like I knew I was 33 years old, and even though I had no prior history of diabetes, no prior history of hypertension, like I told my doctor, I said, hey, I want you to test me early for gestational diabetes, because my family, I don't have a history of diabetes, but my family has a history of diabetes. So although this test is not a test that y'all do until like 24 weeks, I want you to do it now. I was like 12 weeks. I was like, I want to go ahead and get tested now. When it comes to hypertension, although I didn't have a history of hypertension, I know that it was in my family. So I told my doctor, I said, I'm going to start myself on baby aspirin. And for those who don't know, baby aspirin, it's like 81 milligram aspirin pill. It's something that you can take once you become 12 weeks pregnant if your doctor feels like you have a chance of developing preeclampsia. Now, my medical history didn't say that, but as a nurse, I felt like I needed to put myself on baby aspirin. So I told my OB, like, hey, I'm going to start it at 13 weeks. But that's something that some women don't know. And some women may later develop things like gestational diabetes or preeclampsia that, if they don't have that knowledge that seemingly on paper your pregnancy should be normal, and then you look up and you're 30 weeks and you're swollen and your blood pressure is high and you got protein in your urine and all this stuff going on, and now they're talking about delivering your baby early to save you and the baby. But something like that, because I had knowledge about it, I was very proactive about it, about things that I wanted to be done. And these are things that I share with my friends that, are pregnant or are trying to become pregnant, things for them to look out for, because unfortunately, some of those things we don't know, which, can tie back to Black women being fertile and being able to have these babies, with no issues. But we are now in a time where Black women are experiencing a lot of complications in their pregnancy, far beyond what any of our mothers or grandmothers ever experienced. And so I think it's very important to spread that knowledge and to be aware of things that go on in pregnancy. People got to understand that it is hard to grow a human. Even in the most uncomplicated pregnancy, when you think about it, just to go especially in IVF terms, from an embryo, a ball of cells, to a baby, it is a process, and it is hard. And if we're able to have knowledge about things that can affect us in our pregnancy to prevent these things, I think it's very important, and I think it will, give greater and better outcomes for Black women.
I agree 100%. Because when we are aware, when we know, typically when you know better, you do better. So definitely being aware and knowing the things to help advocate for ourselves. Lastly, we're coming to a close. Lastly, what words of advice and or encouragement would you give other Black women to get through this journey?
I'll go. So I think for me, I am a believer in God first. follower of Christ. And so I know some people might have a stigma of, if you go through fertility treatment, whether it's, IUI or taking any type of medicine or IVF, that you are altering what God is doing. And that's not true, because I will tell anybody, science can get you pregnant. Science can absolutely get you pregnant, but my belief, only God can help you deliver a baby, because science can put the egg in your uterus, the embryo in your uterus, but only God is going to grow that baby. Only God is going to carry you from 4 weeks when you find out you're pregnant to 40 weeks, if you go that far, to when you deliver a baby. That is only God. So, for people who might be afraid of, that stigma of using science to get pregnant, honey, science can only go so far. it can only go so far. And it is my belief in God, and that is my belief that it's only Him that I delivered a healthy baby girl. I'm thankful for science, and all of that, that helped my husband and I conceive. But it is truly God that did that for us. And so I want to encourage Black women to, to look past that stigma of using science to get pregnant. It is okay to go see your doctor. It is okay to ask about different alternatives to get pregnant. You do not have to wait month after month after month to try to get pregnant naturally if there's something going on with your body. Like, these different things have been developed to help us. And just like people of other races use it, we should be able to use it. We should not feel judged about using it. I don't want anybody to feel like if they use IVF to have their baby, that their experience is any different from somebody who fell pregnant naturally or even unexpectedly. The goal is to deliver a healthy baby, to bring a baby earthside. And that is what God did for us. And so I just want to encourage anybody that, they're looking to have a baby, that please don't be afraid to reach out to your OB. And if your OB is not giving you the answers, find another one. If that one is not giving you answers, find another one. There are fertility clinics in Mississippi. We used the one that's with UMC, which is Dr. Isaacs, and he was good. And then the fertility clinic we used in New Orleans was Audubon Fertility. And my RE there was amazing. But there are people there to help us. And like Tabitha mentioned, we have to get past that embarrassment, because I was embarrassed that here I am married and I can't have a baby, right? But it's time to get past that embarrassment. It's time to get past that shame. It's time to get past, my grandmother had X amount of children. You can too. But and there are resources out there to help us. And so I just want to encourage everybody to just don't feel ashamed and reach out for help, because it is out there.
And everything she said, God, it is through the grace of God that Nova is here. Everybody know Nova. So I just feel like, understanding that, your journey is your journey. You have one life to live, and if you want a baby and you want to try for a baby, you do that. You know what I mean? No matter what anybody has to say about it, you do that and feel confident in your decision to do that. I mean, if your spouse is with you and you're happy and you two want to do that, do it. I mean, don't let nobody make you feel less than a woman or a person or less than a believer in Christ. If you the infertility drugs or whatever, I mean, I say go for it. And just a fact, I didn't know this, so I just want to share it. We are all born with a certain amount of eggs, and every cycle, those eggs go away. I didn't think about it. I mean, had no clue about it. So technically, when you're pregnant with your daughter, your baby already has the eggs that she's gonna have
right
the rest of her life.
Right.
So once they're gone, they're gone. So I just thought I should throw that out there, because I'm looking like, wait, what?
Right.
And there's no way to get them back.
No, no, we are not like men that can, their sperm just regenerates until they're 90 years old. Like, no, that's not how it works for us.
Yeah,
That's not how it works.
So I mean, I just thought, that was something that I didn't know, and I just thought I should share it. And I'm always here. Like, I mean, I don't care who you are. If I can help, I'm here. Any questions you have, I don't care how personal. I really don't mind sharing. If I'm able to help, I will help. The infertility clinic I went through was Positive Steps with Dr. Perry. They did a really, 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 really good job. And I will be going back to them next summer. I have one embryo left. I had four total. We lost two, and then there was Nova, and then now we have another one, and I will be going through that hopefully next summer. So I look forward to it, and we're gonna do it.
Same here. If anybody wants to reach out to me, I am here. I am open. Like I said, our fertility clinic was
That's amazing. I'm excited for you. Well, we are going to open the floor for a few questions. We're running. It's about 1:55, but it's been a great conversation. So we're definitely going to open the floor for questions. Join us as well. Yes.
So first, I just want to thank you both. I learned a lot today. I was over here taking notes in the background. I really appreciate y'all being open and honest, because we don't have these conversations. And Lauren, as you said over and over, we always think Black women can have babies, Black women can have babies. And that's what's been ingrained in us, but that's not always true. But there is help. I did take some takeaways about the barriers, specifically the financial barriers, just shedding the stigma and the shame. All those things are just so important. So as we get ready to wrap up, there are a couple of questions that I see, but you all did get a lot of praise in the chat, and thanks for sharing your stories. I'm going to, lift up this question from Natalie. What are some things we should look for, or questions we should ask, knowing we want to conceive in the future? And either of you can take it.
Hey, Natalie, that's my best friend and my soror. So, some things that I would say to look for is, or to ask is, number one, if you notice that your period is irregular, you need to talk to your OB about it. Typically, your period or your cycle should be anywhere from like every 24 to like 32 days. It can go, here and there, but typically 24 to like 32 days. If you go 2-3 months without a period, you're not on any type of birth control, you need to talk to your doctor, because that's not normal. A woman that is not on any type of birth control should have a regular cycle where she bleeds, every so many days each month. And so when that's not happening, that's something that's going on. Anytime with your period, if it's extremely heavy, we know that maybe first 2 days, we do have a heavier side to our period. But if you're soaking large overnight pads multiple times during a day, if you're passing blood clots, if your period is unbearable with pain to the point where you can't work, you can't do anything, that's not normal. Like, that's something you should talk to your doctor about, because all of those things contribute to our reproduction, right? And if that's going on, if you're not having a period every month, then you can't track your ovulation. You got to ovulate so you can conceive, because you got to drop the egg. When you ovulate, that's when you drop the egg. And so if your period is going months at a time without you seeing it, then that's something going on. And with the heavy periods, there's a thing called endometriosis, which plagues a lot of Black women, which is a barrier to conceiving. And that's something to look at. Also, if you've had miscarriage in the past, I know a lot of women might have miscarriage like earlier in their 20s or something. And you think nothing of it, go on about your business, if maybe you weren't ready to have a child anyway. But that's something that needs to be brought up to your OB, because, for one reason or another, there was a reason why you might have miscarried. And, for one reason, it might just have been that, the embryo just had something going on with it and it wasn't able to survive. But then there might be other issues. That's something that you could bring up to your OB as well. So I think those type of questions are things that you should ask, especially regarding your cycle. The big thing with reproduction and conceiving is your cycle. And I know I keep emphasizing that, but it is. Your cycle tells a lot about you as far as your reproduction and your ability to do it. And once you kind of look at that and you talk to your doctor about that, then, you can kind of explore other things if you're still not, able to conceive or something like that.
Thank you, Lauren. I'm going to bring up this one last question. It's kind of loaded, but I think we have answered much of it. So Lauren asked, are there any resources available that you found that mention the pre-test or evaluation that should be done? Let's start there. Either of you can answer that.
For me, the pre-test, I think that Tabitha, I can't think of the name of it. I know what you're talking about, Tabitha. I can't think of the name of that test. That test that as far, I'm thinking she's meaning when you do IVF, when is the best time to insert the embryo. I think she's talking about that test. And to be honest, I found out about the test from my cousin who had did IVF, and she mentioned it to me. But throughout the whole IVF process, my doctor did not mention it to me. I had to Google that once my cousin mentioned it. So I did not have a resource that was provided to me by the clinic. I can't think of the name of the test. Tabitha, maybe you know, I can't think of it. It's escaping me right now. But I had to Google the information. That was just because my cousin had mentioned it to me.
All I know is I know that they just take a sample of your actual uterus and test it. I can't think either of
ERA or I can't.
Is
it ERA? I can't think of the name of it.
ERA, yeah. And if you were to take that test, make sure you take some kind of pain, something before. Don't listen to them. Take you something before you go in. Don't take just the Tylenol or no. Take something.
Right. Right. And then it's also another test that you can do even prior to IVF or anything. It's called an HSG test that tests to see if your tubes are open. And this is something that they tested me way late, after years of us trying all this different stuff. My RE in New Orleans is the one that finally gave me an HSG. And all they do is they insert a dye through your uterus. And so they're trying to see if your tubes are open. If your tubes are open, then the dye will flow straight through. If they're not open, then the dye won't, and it is very painful. But that is a test that takes all of 5-10 minutes, and that you can request to be done, especially if you have regular periods and you're trying to conceive and something's going on. I would request the HSG test, and that is something that they can test to see if your tubes are open.
I agree. Definitely that test. That's a very important test.
Thank you both. I think that was all of the questions, because I think you answered most of the other ones that came with that. But this has been very helpful. And one big thing that I did take away from what both of you said was time. Tab, you talked a lot about, how the eggs that we're born with, that's all we have. So as we get older, we shed, and that's all that you have. And Lauren, you stressed time over and over throughout the conversation, and the fact that we don't have to wait. We don't have to continue to wait, and just get our support and advocacy and people surrounding us so that you can move forward. So I think that was probably the biggest thing that I took away is, just know your body and rally your support system to advocate for you within and out of the system. And I really appreciate that. So with that, I really thank you all for coming on. Asia, thank you. Thank you for sticking out even when you got froze. We sure appreciate you. If you all have want to drop, if you want people to follow you, you can drop it in the chat for us. And I think that's all we have today, ladies. So much good information. And this will be probably uploaded to YouTube early next week so others can see it as well. Asia, did you have anything before we end?
No, I did not. But ladies, if you wanted to promote your businesses or anything like that, now's the time. If you want to drop the information in the chat, or we can share it on Facebook if you want. This is your time to expose your businesses to it.
Okay.
I tried to. Oh, okay. I see you put my IG handle on there. Well, just for me, I am currently hoping to study and to become a doula. Um, I am, and also to be IBCLC certified with breastfeeding. And so that is something that I am working on, as far as to be able to help Black women, as far as the birthing process, postpartum, as well as breastfeeding journey, because I am on this breastfeeding journey, and honey, it is something. So but that is something that I am working towards, and hopefully within the next year or so I will be able to become IBCLC certified, which is with breastfeeding, and then look more into becoming a doula.
I'm a hairstylist, my own Tweak Styles. So I mean, I really don't have much to promote, but we do hair. We do really, really good hair. So you can holler at us.
Well, thank you all, and thank everyone for joining us today. And we will be back next month with more information. So thank you all, and have a good weekend.
Bye bye. Be safe.
Bye.